What if I told you there's a hidden code woven into the very fabric of our universe? A mathematical signature that pops up in famous art, in nature, and even inside our own bodies. Today, we're diving into a pattern so universal, some believe it's nothing less than the fingerprint of a creator. Let's start big. I mean, really big. You see this elegant spiral shape, echoed in the arms of galaxies, spinning through the cosmos. It's a design that plays out over millions of light years. Now, let's zoom all the way back down to us. Right now, look at your own hand. The length of your finger bones, from the very tip all the way down to your wrist, they follow this very specific mathematical progression. And we can go even smaller, down to the molecule that literally makes you, you. A complete twist of the DNA double helix measures 34 angstroms by 21 angstroms. Now hang on to those numbers, 34 and 21. They're a key part of the code we're about to crack. You might be thinking, okay, a few cool examples. But it goes so much deeper than that. This same weirdly pleasing ratio shows up, well, everywhere. It's in the architecture of the Taj Mahal, the famous composition of the Mona Lisa, the way petals arrange on a flower, even in musical harmonies and the proportions of our faces. It's like we're fundamentally connected to this number. So what's going on here? Are these just a bunch of wild coincidences, or are we actually seeing evidence of a hidden mathematical blueprint that underpins our whole reality? All right, to get to the bottom of that, we first need to understand the math behind this whole mystery. We're going to unlock something called the Golden Ratio. And it all kicks off with a really simple sequence of numbers. You start with 1 and 1. Then, to get the next number, you just add the 2 before it. So 1 plus 1 is 2. Then 1 plus 2 is 3. 2 plus 3 is 5. 3 plus 5 is 8. And you just keep on going. That's it. That's the Fibonacci sequence. So where did it come from? Well, the sequence gets its name from Leonardo Pisano, an Italian mathematician from way back in the 13th century. His nickname was Fibonacci, and he's the one who introduced this amazing pattern to the Western world in 1202. Okay, now here is where it gets really cool. If you take any number in that sequence and divide it by the one right before it, something magical happens. 8 divided by 5 is 1.6. 13 divided by 8 is 1.625. The further you go, the closer that ratio gets to one specific irrational number, about 1.618. That is the Golden Ratio, also known as phi. Let's picture it another way. Imagine you have a line and you split it into two parts, a long part A and a short part B. You've hit the Golden Ratio when the whole line divided by the long part is exactly the same as the long part divided by the short part. It's this perfect, self-referencing proportion that artists and architects have found beautiful for centuries. And this math translates directly into the real world. If you take a full 360-degree circle and divide it using the Golden Ratio, you get this very special angle, 137.5 degrees. They call it the golden angle, and it's the secret to how so many plants arrange their leaves and seeds to get the most sunlight. It's an incredibly efficient design. Okay, so we've covered the what, this incredible mathematical pattern. But the source material we're looking at today takes a huge leap and asks, why? It puts forward this pattern as actual evidence of a designer. And here's the core of their thesis, from astrophysicist Dr. Jason Lisle. The argument goes like this. If you start with the Bible as your foundation, finding this kind of beautiful, intricate design in the universe isn't a surprise at all. In fact, it's exactly what you'd expect to find. This is a perfect example of what they're talking about. On the left, you've got the pure math of the golden angle. And on the right, you see a plant whose leaves are spiraling outwards at almost exactly that angle. The argument here is that this isn't random. It's the most efficient design for survival, like a pre-programmed blueprint for growth. So for them, the number 1.618 isn't just a mathematical quirk. It's presented as a divine proportion. The sources argue that it's just really, really unlikely for random, messy evolution to keep producing such a precise and beautiful mathematical constant over and over again in so many different places. They see it as a signature. They even extend this argument to the Bible itself. The sources highlight the dimensions given for huge structures like Noah's Ark, a width of 50 to a height of 30, and the Ark of the Covenant, 2.5 long by 1.5 wide. When you simplify both of those, you get a 5-to-3 ratio, which works out to about 1.67. That's a pretty close approximation of phi. Now, this is where the idea takes a really interesting turn. The source material takes this concept of proportion and applies it to something totally different, spiritual value. They call it heavenly mathematics. So the source draws this incredible contrast. It says worldly math is all about addition, you put in effort, you accumulate stuff, and you get some limited finite success. But it proposes this heavenly math that works on a totally different principle, total surrender that leads to an infinite result. And this idea is perfectly captured in the biblical story of the widow's mite. You have these rich people putting huge sums of money into the temple treasury, but then a poor widow comes along and puts in just 2 tiny little coins. By any normal worldly math, her contribution was basically nothing. But Jesus says she gave more than all of them combined. Why? Well, the rich people gave from their surplus, just a small fraction of what they had. She gave everything. And here's the connection. Just like the golden ratio is about a specific proportion in nature, the source argues that God values the proportion of our hearts, not the absolute amount of our gift. So how do we bring this all together? How do you connect a mathematical code in nature to a life of faith? Well, the final section of our source material does just that. This reflection from the source really ties it all up. It contrasts all the finite things we chase, money, status, knowledge, with this heavenly formula. The idea is that when the proportion is total, when you offer your whole self, the result isn't just a bigger number, it's infinite grace and meaning. And that leads us to this powerful summary of the entire concept. It's not about what you can add up or what you have left over. It's about a total offering that results in an infinite multiplication of the things that truly matter. And that leaves us with one final big idea to think about. From the spin of a galaxy to the code in our own DNA, the source material asks us to consider, what if all these beautiful, repeating patterns aren't just random numbers? What if they're a deliberate message about design, about value, and about our place in the universe?